So I've been threatening to do these videos for a while because it's not something that I've come across a lot online. I've seen general bits and bobs of discussion and the odd thing here and there, but it's not something that I've seen a lot of from a personal perspective, from a fitness perspective and things like that. So it's difficult to have the camera pointing at me. So this is me, I'm Dan, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch the camera around and you'll just hear my voice, hopefully, and you can see my little walk that I'm going on. I'm sure the scenery is nicer to look at than looking at my mug. So I'm going to switch the camera around. I'm going to tell you about my experiences with citalopram and fitness, particularly my experience with fitness whilst on citalopram, and hopefully it might be insightful, maybe interesting, and hopefully helpful to anyone who's in a similar situation. So let me flip the camera around. Right, after all that preamble, my experience with citalopram, SSRIs, so it could be citalopram, sertraline, fluoxetine, anything like that. I'll put them all under the category of SSRIs. For me, it was citalopram. I'm not going to edit this video, so I'm not going to chop out moments of silence where I pause for thought. It's just going to be off the cuff. I've not really planned it. I'm going to try and give it a bit of structure. So if we start with what I was like before citalopram and why I ended up going on it, and then I'll tell you how my experience of it and how it worked out, and then I'll tell you where I am now. So I started having panic attacks, like quite bad ones, when I was about, I don't know, 22, something like that. So in about 1999, I'll have been 21, I think. And I went to the doctors and they prescribed me fluoxetine. And I also had one session with a counsellor. Now, I'm young at this point. I've never experienced or come across any kind of formalised reflective thinking. Obviously, you do think we all reflect, but not, I would say, I'd just always gone on instinct. So anyway, gets prescribed this fluoxetine, which is Prozac, right? So Prozac, I think, is the brand name. So gets prescribed that for anxiety. Went to the pub, and somebody who was older than me, like a friend's dad, "No, throw it away. Oh, you don't want to be taking that stuff. It's trash, blah, 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 blah." So scared the life out of me, and I didn't really want to take it anyway. So I stopped taking it. Well, no, I didn't even start taking it. Looking back, probably the worst advice ever, and from someone who was a total buffoon. You know, it's like now, it's like, why the hell did I listen to this? This guy was a complete buffoon. Didn't even particularly get on that well with him, but when you're young and somebody tells you and scares you, and they're kind of a lot older than you. So I didn't take it, and I spent the next few years managing it, just doing what I could, really. I went through periods where I wouldn't leave the house. I went through periods where it started to get quite bad in that, and anyone who knows me now and knows, like, I'm so scientific, I'm not superstitious, I don't believe in any mumbo jumbo, I'm really not like that. But back then I was doing things like, I wouldn't put the television volume on 13 because it's unlucky, and I had to turn the light on and off like 5 times, and it was getting a bit, it wasn't really bad, but it could have been a little bit OCD and a little bit dodgy, and I was just getting a bit, I was really struggling, to be honest, when I look back. But, you know, I'm quite good at cracking on and managing things. I'm quite resilient. So, yeah, that's crazy when I look back at the crazy stuff that I was doing. I can't even think, like, some of the other things, but just little kind of OCD things like that. Anyway, fast forward to 2004, I think. For whatever reason, I decided I wanted to train. I wanted to start getting fit, because what had happened was, I'd always been, as a teenager, I was really skinny. And then, as I met my partner and settled down and stopped moving and started drinking and eating and generally doing what a lot of people do, I put on weight. And for me, I was quite fat, probably compared to most people, because I was skinny to start with, but I'd put on, I was probably 10.5 stone wet through, aged 20, and by the time I was 25, I was about 14 stone, so I put on a good bit of weight for me, and it wasn't muscle, it was just fat. So I decided I wanted to train, and I bought a multi-gym, and I think at the start I just started training arms. That's all I always wanted, big arms. And I bought, this is 2004, this is before YouTube and social media. Let's get away from the main road. So, where was I? So yeah, I'd started training, and there's no YouTube, so basically it was like websites. So I found there was a guy called John Harris who'd been UK natural bodybuilding champion and had a mail order DVD, so I bought that. I bought some Ronnie Coleman DVDs from eBay, and there were forums. You go on like these bodybuilding forums. So that's how I got into the fitness side of it. And what I found happens with, when you get into fitness, you get more of a proactive mentality about other things as well, is what I found. Not always, but for me. So then I started to think about my mentality and things like that, and my mindset, and just little tweaks. 2005, my first child, my what is now my eldest son, was born, and that literally was like a trigger that, I don't know, I just felt like I had it's easy to let things slide if it's you, but when you have someone else dependent on you, for me, this is, I guess, from experience, this is not the case for everyone, but for me, I would do more to sort myself out for my kids. So I started thinking more about personal development, and all the way through this time the anxiety is still there, so that's why I'm telling you this. But I was managing it as best I could. Fast forward 2006, 2007, I decided to go back to study, and that was a big change for me. Loved it, literally, like everyone else who was on the course was doing it to further their career, and I guess I was when I signed up. But when I sat there for the first time, I just thought, I absolutely love this. This is me, because I do have that academic bent, so to speak. This is turning into it's all relevant, so it's all interrelated. So if this seems like superfluous, it's kind of related to managing the anxiety. But anyway, so goes to study, gets a new job, and in this new job it's a sales environment, so they're all listening to what became probably one of the biggest changes and completely changed my life. They're all listening to this audio, and some of it's related to sales, but a lot of it's related to personal development and taking control and taking responsibility for not necessarily how you feel, because, well, I guess, yes, when you look at cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT, it's about linking your feelings with your thoughts. So I got into Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, all that stuff, and literally changed my life. Oh my God, I felt amazing, never felt so good. Anxiety goes, so driven, continue my studies right up to 2012 at this point, by which time I've aced my degree, I'm in Mensa, done all these things that I wanted to do related to mindset and thinking, and I've started my masters. I'm lecturing, I'm teaching on university courses, I'm teaching on degrees, I'm teaching organisational psychology. I've really made loads of development in the way that I think and how I control my emotions. And I did my dissertation on emotional intelligence. I worked with some of the leading experts on emotional intelligence in the world. And meantime, my training is going from strength to strength. I'm in good shape. I'm getting stronger. And then, boom, split up with the mother of my kids, and just had a massive upheaval where I had a different house and I wasn't seeing my kids every day, 50-50 custody. You know, I was seeing them 50% of the time, which not everyone can do that. Not everyone works it out that well. We worked it out so well. That was one of the things I think we're both really proud of, that when we did split up. Obviously it affected the kids because they go from we're both together to we're not together, but we did, I think, a really good job of managing the kids and making sure that they didn't suffer too much. But then you become a single parent and things start to get hard. So that really changed my thoughts on single parents. But it really got hard because I'm studying, I've got 2 jobs, I'm trying to manage bringing the kids up, I'm trying to be fit, I'm trying to do all this stuff. I've got a new partner, and eventually, as we get to 2013, 2014, I start to get worn down. My mental health is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So yeah, my mental health is getting so bad at this point. Long story short, I end up really having like what was a breakdown looking back now. Social anxiety, can't go anywhere. Catastrophizing, thinking about it. Some of the concerns I had were legitimate, some of them not, but I am really, really struggling. I'm like a bag of nerves at this point. Long story short, went to see the doctor. This is in 2014, which is 11 years ago. And they prescribed me citalopram. So citalopram, the minimum dose is 10 milligrams. The maximum dose is 40 milligrams. I think it goes up in stages of 10, 20, 30, 40. I think that's how they do it. But anyway, the max dose is 40 milligrams. So I'm on 10. So I come home, I take this citalopram, and supposedly it takes 6 weeks or something to get into your system and fully get into your system and work. Okay, I'm not disputing that, and I'm fully aware of the placebo effect. But I took this citalopram and it like knocked me out. Whether it was a placebo or not, I do not know. But it felt like someone had given me some kind of really strong sedative. I remember just like sitting on the living room floor and then just lying down, staring into space for about an hour, just like, oh my God, it was like somebody had given me a big cuddle and said it was all, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. Now, whether that was a placebo, and I thought, I thought that the citalopram was a bit of a relief and was going to help me, or whether it actually did do that to me, I don't know. All I know is I'm savvy enough to be aware of the placebo effect, but it didn't feel like that. It literally knocked me out, and it made me, it was brilliant. It was really good. So this is 10 milligrams, and it just helped me to cope and to have enough energy and have enough, because I felt awful. I literally wouldn't have taught myself or anything like that, but I didn't feel like I wanted to be alive. I just felt awful. I felt so bad. Like, I can't do this. I can't. It was awful. The only thing keeping me going was the kids, because I had to do that for the kids. So this 10 milligrams of citalopram really helped me to just dig my way out of this hole that I was in. And the first part of that was I decided I was going to become a personal trainer, because I'd always trained, and people had said, you should be a PT, or they'd ask me questions, because by this point I'd been training for 10 years. So before I even considered being a personal trainer, I'd been training myself for 10 years, and I'm quite studious, I'm quite academic, and I'd done a lot of research, and I'd put that into practice, and I'd done quite well. So I decided to become a personal trainer. That combined with the citalopram was just life-changing for me. It gave me a job that I loved doing. It was just such a good move, and the citalopram helped me with that. So yeah, 10 milligrams of citalopram, starting to feel better. But this is the thing, that the first point, I didn't take citalopram until, what are we on there, 2013, 14, 2004, until 15 years after my first symptoms. So for 15 years, I'd been dealing with the anxiety, and I didn't just cognitive behavioural therapy. I got so good at that I was helping other people with it. I was teaching personal development on the degree programs. I was teaching on organisational psychology. Psychology was my thing. And if you ask anybody who knows me from back then, I was really good at personal development, because I had to do that. I had to do that as part of my own keeping myself going. So it's not like I went to SSRIs as the first thing. I tried everything and done as much as I could off my own back before I needed some help. And it's a bit like these, the weight loss jabs. If you have honestly, legitimately tried absolutely everything, and you are still really struggling, and you are massively overweight, and it's affecting your health, and you have genuinely given it a go, then yeah, fine, do it. But don't just do it because you've never bothered before and you want to lose half a stone for your holiday. That's ridiculous. But if you've genuinely tried everything, then yeah, go for it. So that's where I was, and things started to get really good from that point onwards. So from, say, 2014, I think it was roughly then, 14, when I started on 10 milligrams, things are brilliant. My training went from strength to strength. I was coaching other people. My relationships were better. I was a better dad. I was just so much more chilled. And the reason was that it relaxed me. It chilled me out. So whereas before everything was really like I was really aggy, like really intense, which really helped with my training, because if you are that kind of intense person and you set high standards for yourself, then you are unlikely to struggle when it comes to discipline and things like that. So it did massively help me with my training, being like that. The 10 milligrams just took the edge off that, and made me more tolerant, made me just generally better. I got on with people better. I was less anxious in general. I was less worried about what people thought. I was better with my kids. I had more patience, because it got rid of that I don't know if it's like the aggression or the testosterone or something. It just basically chilled me out. So fast forward to around 2019, and I've had ups and downs. So my partner at the time said, why don't you try just upping your citalopram a bit, then you won't have like these sort of ups and downs, almost a little bit like there's I think it's called, what's it called now? Cyclothymia. So cyclothymia is basically like a rubbish version of what's it called? Bipolar. So bipolar, you're off your head, spending loads of money, going out, just having it off with strangers and all kinds of crazy stuff. Or you're like suicidal. I wasn't like that, but I definitely had ups and downs. And there's a thing called cyclothymia. I think Stephen Fry suffers with that, and I think I had a bit of that. So to try and even out the ups and downs, I gradually increased my dosage to 20 and then 30 milligrams. And what happened is it's crept up on me, and before I knew it, I'd lost all my motivation. Now this is the key bit. There's a thing called SSRI, induced apathy, and if you have a good doctor, when you go for your review, they'll say, how are your motivation levels? Because that's one of the things that they're checking for, this SSRI induced apathy. So what happened was, I went from being really dedicated and you must do this and making myself ill with giving myself such high standards, to having no physical or mental motivation to do things. For example, forget the training for a minute. Things like I'd be sitting in the car and I'd start driving and I couldn't be bothered putting my seatbelt on. Like, I'd never been like that. I would never not put my seatbelt on. But it was like an effort to put my seatbelt on. I was sleeping loads. I didn't have the physical energy to train. Like, when I tried to train, it was just really difficult, like physically. And also, I didn't really want to train. I didn't have I was like, well, what's the point? I just didn't have the motivation to train. As a person, I was Mr. Fun. I was like everybody's friend. I was just like a big, cuddly teddy bear. Because before I'd always like, no, you don't want to drink, or I don't want to drink, and I'm not a loser. I'm a loser if I drink, and only losers drink. And I would be like, really careful about what I ate. Whereas now I'd gone to, hey, it's fine. Hey, let's have a drink. No, let's order a pizza. It's all good. Yeah. And I was kind of like the person who everybody got on really well with, and I got on really well with people, but I'd lost that, it had lost the ability to focus and discipline on things that weren't immediate, like just fun and pleasurable. What made me happy had completely changed. I'd basically become like everyone else. So, but what it had done is it got rid of all the anxiety. You know, you could have said to me like, oh, there's a bomb going to go off, and I'd be like, yay, it's fine. So it had the desired effect. It got rid of all the anxiety, but it had got rid of it so much that it had just made me I don't even know how to describe it. In one way, it was really, really good, and I absolutely loved it, and which is why I was really reticent to change it. I didn't want to change myself, and people were saying, well, if you speak to anyone who's gone on SSRIs, a lot of the time they'll say that happened to them, or a similar thing happened to them, that they didn't like how it made them feel. My argument to that was always that if the medicine makes you feel worse than you did before, then obviously you didn't feel that bad before. I felt so bad before that even the downsides of the SSRIs were tolerable compared to the alternative, which was feeling like I used to feel, which was absolutely bloody awful. So I was prepared to put up with not having those levels of motivation because I felt so relaxed and so happy. I'd never been so happy in my life. My relationships were really good. Didn't argue as much. My relationships with the kids were better. But what it meant was, when it came to anything like fitness or things like that, I just didn't have the drive and the motivation, because that's what it had done. It's the SSRI induced apathy. Go Google it. It had made me physically unable to train properly, and it had made me mentally have no drive, no motivation whatsoever. So, having been the person who is ultra focused and ultra, you must do that, otherwise you're a loser. And I don't drink. I was teetotal for 2 years. Back in 2010 or something like that. I was teetotal for 2 years. I used to be really, really, having experienced that and then gone completely the other way, I have a little bit more empathy, shall we say now, for people who are struggling, because I would always sort of say, oh, just pull your socks up and you can, why don't you just do it? I can do it. Well, people are different, and the citalopram for me was like someone had put a different chip in my brain. It's like somebody had taken out the anxiety chip, taken out the motivation chip, and put in a big cuddly happy teddy bear chip. And when you experience that yourself, I mean, I can tell you that and you can appreciate it, but when you actually experience it, it is bizarre. But I guess that is what the drugs are designed to do, because it's psychological and not physical. I think we struggle to understand it, but when you actually experience it, it's crazy. It is really bizarre. So yeah, that's what happened up to then. And then obviously we've got lockdown, we've got all sorts going on. We had a few changes at work, and I get to a point where I think, do you know what? No, I did not know this place existed. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to turn back. So I get to a point where it's starting to annoy me that I can't train like I used to. It's starting to annoy me that I'm putting on weight. Now, this is the thing with, they say about SSRI and weight gain, and everyone always asks me this: does it make you gain weight? For me, it didn't make me gain weight. It wasn't the tablets that were making me gain weight. What made me gain weight was my attitude. So it made me more chilled. So instead of saying, no, have the salad because that's what's good for you and that's going to get you the results you want, it was, no, let's have a pizza, it's fine, it's cool, yeah, have a burger, have whatever. And that was the difference. It wasn't the medication itself that made me gain weight. What made me gain weight was my attitude, my levels of motivation. So I'm not training as hard, I'm not training as much, and I've got a more relaxed attitude to nutrition. So I gained weight, and then I got to a point where I'm missing being able to train. I'm not happy with my body. So I reduce my citalopram from 30 milligrams to 20 milligrams, and it starts to feel good. Then to 10 milligrams, and I start to feel awful. So I put it back up to 20. So I've now been at 20 milligrams for, let me think, around 6 months maybe. I haven't trained like this for years. I feel amazing. I feel like I've got the energy. I feel like I've got the willpower. Like, I enjoy training again. I'm loving training. It's important to me again. My nutrition is good again. I'm enjoying eating well. I'm not that bothered about eating crap. You know, I still like the odd pizza, the odd burger. Yeah, it's fine. But I've always been like that, where I don't just, you know, I don't just eat lettuce all the time. I do enjoy junk food. I'm controlled in how I eat it and I make it work for me. But the key two things that have happened when I've gone from 30 milligrams of citalopram down to 20 is that, number one, I've got my physical energy back. I feel, before trying to train on 30 milligrams of citalopram was like trying to walk through custard. It was just really, really difficult. Whereas now I feel that I've got the ability again. So we've got that. And the other thing is the psychological side of it. So I actually want to train. I actually default to eating well. I actually default to training. I don't default to thinking, oh, sod it, it's fine. Am I still a big cuddly teddy bear? Probably a little bit more. Could get a little bit more argumentative in that before I would let things slip if I didn't think they were too big an issue, whereas now I still do that. I'm not, you know, it's not like I'm arguing at the toss every 2 minutes, but sometimes if you think you're right or you think somebody's out of order, you think, do you know what, does it matter, let it go. With a lot of citalopram, I'd let anything go. You know, somebody could come and trash my car and I'd go, oh well, never mind. Whereas without citalopram, I'd be going mental. Whereas now I hope I've got a good balance. So that's different. I've got goals now with my training. It's just generally very different. So my experience with citalopram, both from a personal and from a fitness point of view, is that it fundamentally changes how you think. You can go from being really, and a lot of it's to do with levels of motivation, which is, again, it brings you back to the SSRI induced apathy. So I think that's about everything I can think of, really. Sorry it's been a bit rambly, but I wanted to give you the full context. That's where I am. That's what's worked for me. There are some of the positives and the negatives, and let's see what happens over the next few years or months.